Okay, I think we're live here, gentlemen, and what we've got is Ole Dammegard and Cody Snodgres. How are you guys this morning? Afternoon.
Doing good.
Okay.
Ole, you're still on lockdown there in Spain, right?
Yep, it's day 15 now.
15, wow. Yeah, and you know, everybody's heard that the U.S. Navy hospital ship, the Comfort, has arrived here in New York, and we're going to go up there and check it out. We're approaching the Javits Center again, and I was just down on the way over here checking out that FDNY ambulance depot, and there's more ambulances there today than there were any other day, and there's nobody in them, and they're not driving around, you know, picking up
this
patients.
is nuts.
There's more ambulances now. They're not picking up patients. They're just sitting there. So, you know, a lot of people, guys in the United States, have been kind of like, you know, trolling these videos I've been doing. I'm going to the hospitals to try to see if there is an emergency. I don't know if you guys got to see this article in the New York Times where they profiled this doctor, Dr. Colleen Smith, who was saying how there weren't enough ventilators and it was an apocalyptic situation. But within the New York Times article, they said that the hospital itself denied this claim, that they never came close to running out of ventilators, and then the governor corroborated what the hospital was saying. So there's a lot of confusion in the reporting. Ole, what are you hearing from your sources?
Other researchers have asked viewers to please go to the local hospitals and film it, check it out. Is there a disaster going on or not? And I've now gone, I have videos from Hawaii, from Japan, from Germany, from Sweden, from England, in New York, several ones in the US that have all gone to their local hospitals, and they're just empty. They're just empty.
I'll tell you, Ole, there's people who are contacting me who work at these hospitals who don't want to go on the record because medical professionals in general aren't into getting on YouTube and getting a lot of publicity. They go to the hospital, they work on their patients. There's a lot of laws about what kind of information you can reveal, and they just don't want to do it. So I'm not saying that any doctor that goes on YouTube is doing anything wrong, but it's interesting to note that most of the medical professionals, even people who are calling me and saying, hey, I work at that hospital that you went to, and they haven't called me in, they acknowledge that it's strange. Cody, how about you? What are you hearing?
Well, we had Sergeant Hawkins go down to Fort Carson, the military post there, and he said he saw big tents with MPs and sandbags out in front of them, and it was supposedly to take care of quarantine patients. They said they had 52 of them in there, but he did not eyewitness any of them. So it's just what he was told. And then here at our local hospital, we had someone, the director of a department in there, tell us that they had one person that was sick with COVID-19, and that there were 3 others that were being tested, and that they were scared. They said, I hate to say I'm scared, but I'm scared. And we have not seen any COVID patients. We've just talked to people that have been to the places where they're supposedly kept, and the hospitals where they have infections in the staff. So, you know, we don't have any hard empirical evidence, just hearsay from people that work places and have been places.
I just spoke to a friend of a nurse outside San Diego, and she said that this nurse said that she had volunteered to be on the staff, you know, especially for Corona. She came there, there's no one there, and she said there were some people, some patients, but they were like, maybe somebody burped or sneezed or something like that, and they were right away, they were taken in and quarantined without any diagnosis whatsoever. And the nurse herself said that she thinks that they were being used to test different vaccines on. That was what the nurse said. So I'm like,
wow.
Whoa, that is And I also heard the people that have called in, saying, I don't know, I've slightly got a cold, I don't know if I should come to work today, and call the doctor, and the doctor said right away, you got corona, stay at home. And it's like, how did that happen? We also get information about these tests that is now a bit of a big scandal about to explode, that many of the tests are showing the wrong results, so that if you do not have
here's
corona,
some Army
you will
guys.
test positive.
Can we talk to these Army guys? Sorry to interrupt, Ole. Hey, excuse me. Have you guys been working on the hospital in here? If you see the governor, can you tell him that there's a big disconnect between what the hospitals think they have in terms of equipment and what the doctors think they have in terms of equipment? Governor said there's tons of ventilators, but Dr. Colleen Smith said there are none. And they're building this hospital, which seems to take a lot of resources. Why aren't they just stocking the existing hospitals?
I'm working on one of the lower floors, so I got no clue, man.
What's happening on the lower floor?
Oh, we're just getting our stuff set up.
Any patients arrive yet? When are they expected?
We can't even give that info out, man.
You can't even get what?
You got no clue, man.
You have no clue when the patients are going to arrive. So we got a hospital in Elmhurst, Queens, that even the president last night made a comment about.
Everyone else,
Everyone else what?
Don't worry about it. We're prepared to take everything, okay?
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for your hard work. Be safe. How come you guys aren't wearing masks?
It's because we're not inside.
Oh, there's no coronavirus out here? Can I go inside? No, not a hospital, no entry allowed. Do you guys see all this?
Yeah.
So Cody, what do you think of that exchange with were those guys National Guard or Army Corps of Engineers?
Well, I don't know what to make of it. The data supports no conclusions, because if they're just non-medical personnel, and they're there to say move generators or set up a perimeter. There's a lot of other areas to setting up a hospital ship or an operation, a field hospital, that are non-medical, and they wouldn't necessarily be wearing masks if they were doing that kind of stuff. But it's hard to say. I will say that today I just got a call this morning from Texas, the state of Texas. Governor Greg Abbott down there just said no patients from New York or Florida or any of the hotspots are allowed into Texas without a 2-week quarantine. That just went into effect this morning.
Wow. And
if
the
you're
mayor
flying from New York down to Texas, you have to have a 2-week mandatory quarantine, whether you're sick or not.
Wow. And it seems like, according to some of the reports we're hearing from these breathless doctors in the New York Times, a person would die in 2 weeks if they were that sick. It's really difficult to know what's going on. It's also hard to understand why, if this hospital in Elmhurst is overwhelmed, and this thing, the governor was showing it on the news as if it was set up and ready to accept patients, why aren't they moving people here? Why aren't they moving people from Queens to other hospitals around in the area? Here, there's another soldier standing here. Maybe I'll ask him. What's just Cody?
Just asking, what are you at liberty to talk about? Thank you for your service and all.
How you doing? Hey, thanks for what you're doing here, man.
Thank you.
Have any patients started arriving yet? You know when they're going to get here?
Is there any questions? You have the PIO officer.
Where's the PIO officer?
Going to 32nd Street?
32nd Street?
Yeah.
And
the
what?
Entrance, the main entrance?
Oh, to this building?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's a PIO officer. We'll chat with the PIO on the way back. That's good that they have that.
Jason?
Yes.
Okay, do you know, like, the numbers that are being spread around with all of these deaths and so many of them, a lot of the statistic comes from the Johns Hopkins Hospital,
Right.
Which is who took part of the event 201, which was the coronavirus simulation in New York, in your hometown or home city here, on October 18th. That was last year, way before anyone had ever heard about this epidemic. They were training for it. Anyway, so the numbers also come from the CDC, which were there at the simulation, and the World Health Organization, which is connected to these organizations. But there are other places where you can access and get numbers from, statistics. And one of them is a website called euromomo.eu, that euromomo.eu, and that stands for Mortality Monitoring in Europe. And what they do, some really loud noise there.
It's noisy, yeah. I've got my mic off. The audience can't hear the noise. Only you guys can. Keep going.
Okay. Okay, so what they do is, on this website, they publish weekly bulletins of all hospitality levels in 24 different. And the countries are Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Malta.
I think we might be losing your signal a little bit, Ole. Can you say again what happened in Italy?
No, this website, Euromomo, is a mortality monitoring in Europe, and it's from 24 different European countries, where they get weekly bulletins of the number of dead. That's not the corona thing, but just in general. And they have numbers from 2016 up to week 12 of 2020. And there's absolutely zero rising of death in 2020. It follows the exact same as previous years.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some technical challenges on a show like this, because, I mean, we wanted to go out live in case anything happens to me or the camera. The mayor announced last night that the police are going to start handing summonses to people who fail to adhere to the 6-foot social distance guidelines. So we're really entering a police state. What I heard, Ole, is that this site is tracking deaths around Europe, and also the CDC. We were talking about the CDC and the WHO on Sunday with Charles yesterday. There is a long history of corruption in both of those organizations. And, you know, you brought up Event 201, Ole. You were the first person to tell me about that. And I've just started digging into some of the videos that they have online. You'll remember that the whole entire thing was basically live streamed, right? So, I mean, sorry, hang on. The whole thing was live streamed so people can see it and see what they were talking about. I've looked at some of the people who were involved, and I don't think they knew what was going on. It seems very much like, almost like an Agatha Christie mystery, where they invite everybody to dinner and then people start getting, you know, knocked off, and it was just a strange thing. Have you seen that video, Ole?
I'm not sure which one you're referring to. There are 6 videos on their official website.
Right.
I don't know if that's these are the videos you're talking about.
Indeed, they are. Those are the videos that show you basically the whole event. So I'm going to head over to the West Side Highway here. We're getting closer to the pier where the Navy hospital ship is. I'm finding it strange that they're spending so much time and resources bringing in additional hospital capacity when they're not, it seems, from what the doctor in Elmhurst is telling me, they're not allocating existing resources intelligently. So, Cody, you've got experience in the military. Have you ever been around one of these field hospitals? How are they usually organized? And is it strange to you that in a city like New York, they wouldn't first try to maximize the resources that exist here before building these triage facilities?
Well, you know, you have to ask first if this is not a cover story for something else. In other words, we're being told that that ship, the Comfort, is being sent there for triage and for patients that are overloaded from the hospitals for coronavirus. What if it's there for something totally different? Now, what if it's there to round up dissidents, prisoners, or something else? No.
Why would they want a ship for that?
Well, they might want to move prisoners down to Gitmo or something. You know, I'm speculating here. It's hard to know, but what we're being told may not be true. There may be something else going on as well, but the ships do have the capacity to take in large numbers of casualties, and until you see the patients being moved, all we know right now is that the ship is there, there's a military presence there, that something's going on. Exactly what's going on, I do not know.
Nobody seems to know, because the governor contradicts what the doctors in the hospitals are saying. The New York Times is printing conflicting information rather than running down the story and finding out what's really going on. And I'm going around New York City just exercising the limited number of rights I have left. I mean, last night, right now, the governor says if I stand closer, or rather the mayor, if I stand closer than 6 feet to somebody, I can be ticketed by the police. So each day they could be introducing new laws that limit what we're able to do. Can you guys see the Intrepid over there, the aircraft carrier?
Yeah.
So that's a museum now.
Yeah, depending on the bed space in that particular ship, the Comfort, how many ever beds that they're able to do. You know, if you start seeing long lines of ambulances or other type of transport vehicles, then they're also going to have a morgue situation. Like if people die in mass, casualty events from this virus, like they're supposedly doing in Italy, 1,000 people a day, they're not going to keep them all on that ship. They're going to have to take them out to civilian facilities like morgues or ice skating rinks or freezers or wherever. So you should see people going in and then stuff coming out. And it depends on when they open that ship up for business.
Right. Well, last week, sorry, Ole, last week, there you go, and then I'll turn the microphone back on when the traffic dies down.
I mean, I live in a country where they're doing exactly that. According to official sources, there's this ice hockey rink in Madrid that is being used for dead bodies, they say, and I've seen photos of a freezer truck, refrigerator truck that reversed into it, apparently to collect bodies. But I tell you, I'm still waiting to see some real evidence, because like now the officials, according to official sources in Italy, the number of dead that are due or are the result of corona and not other diseases or old age or whatever is down to 2 now. That's the 2. So it's like we're being told all of these horror stories, but when you look in history, like I think it was Goebbels in the Nazi war machine that says the bigger the lie, the easier it is to get people to believe it. And here, it's almost like all of these things are made for media to pump out, watch it, look at this horror, and not real life.
Yeah.
It's like
the whole thing reminds me
being played out.
The whole thing, Ole, it reminds me of a Serco resiliency test, because in their own websites they say that they involve local law enforcement, the military, the news, professional journalists, and that their goal is to make it as absolutely realistic as possible. And if people have seen some of the videos that I've made walking around town talking to EMTs and talking to cops and some of the emergency workers, particularly during the early days of this, they all seem to be answering in ways that many people felt indicated that they perhaps knew something that they weren't saying. Obviously, we have no first-hand evidence of that, but this is just people's impressions. We're getting close to Pier 90 here. All of these people would be ticketed under the mayor's new guidelines. I don't know how they're going to do that with no police around. Right? So Cody, Have you ever been in a situation in a foreign country where martial law was imposed?
Yes.
What's that like?
And,
Paint a picture for us.
Well, the military comes out and they supersede all civilian type law enforcement, and it's really heavy-handed. You know, there's stern curfews. Supply chains are controlled tightly, and it's a harsh situation. What we're under now, like Ole's in his quarantine thing over there, or his isolation. We're the same way in Colorado. The governor here told us not to go out except for essential travel, like medicine, grocery store. But martial law is something totally different. Access points and choke points are tightly controlled. All the transportation, usually the plane, the airspace is all shut down. Transportation is all controlled with checkpoints.
Yeah. Well, we're hearing about that. I mean, you know, you've just told us that states are announcing that patients from New York aren't allowed in. That's a pretty... People need to let that soak in for a second. You're not allowed to travel from New York to other states in the United States. That's pretty extreme.
Well, you can come in the state at like the DFW airport or Houston, George Bush Airport or Hobby Airport down there in Houston. Those are the two big places. But if you get there, you are in an immediate mandatory quarantine. You have no choice about it. You have to go to a quarantine.
Cody, you still with us?
Yeah,
Oh, no, did we? Oh, yeah. So when you're talking about a quarantine in those states, is that some facility where they confine you, or you go and stay at a hotel or your family's house, or what?
It's a mandatory quarantine, and I don't know the details of it, but Sergeant Hawkins told me that up here in Colorado Springs at Fort Carson that there were mostly people from Texas and they were civilians. So,
Huh. Wow. Well, that's interesting. I mean, we've got a satellite truck here. Obviously, there is a lot of coverage of the boat going in. Yeah. What's up, Ole? What's up, Ole? Can you hear me, Ole? Are you there? So we got a lot of radio equipment in use here. I don't know if this is going to disrupt my ability to live stream. It's possible they may want that. A lot of vehicles around here. So there's a lot of people. Ole, you still with me? Have we lost you? Oh no. Yes, we appear to have lost the guys. Let's see if we can get them back. So I'm down here. It's a shame. Huh. Something wrong with Skype. Let's see. I wonder if we can get oh, there's the boat. Oh, wow. My God, Skype has totally gone back to its sign in and create an account. This is if Skype has been deleted from my phone. How did that just happen? Very strange. So people can see the ship over there. I don't know if they're letting people... Yeah, it looks like you can go across the street. It's big. No. Ole, don't call. Just gonna try to fix this here. Let's see if we can get across the street and see that thing. Now, this is the most cars I've seen for days. Oh boy, this is really a hassle. stop, please, calling. That's not helping. Damn it. This is just coming unglued here. Ole, you gotta stop calling. It keeps erasing what I'm trying to do when you call. Can somebody text Ole and tell him not to call? I gotta get him back in from this end. But every time he calls, it deletes what I'm typing in to get it back in. I gotta totally set up Skype again, and it's sideways. Let's see, okay, if I can get in there now, we can get Ole back, hopefully. Okay, stop, please. Okay.
The person whom you're trying...
No.
Please leave a message after the beep.
I don't know if we're still live here. Do not call, please, Ole. Just answer. Can't cross here.
The person whom you're trying to reach is available.
Yeah, I think I just got hit with a ton of radio interference over here.
The person whom you're trying...
I don't know what's going on with Skype there for Ole. Wow, look at that thing. That's wild. Do I have you guys back?
Cody here.
Okay. Okay, great. We got you back. So, let's see. Sorry about that, guys. It gets real crazy when it disconnects. Let me get you back on.
You know, another thing that may be happening, Jason, if that aircraft carrier Intrepid is nearby you, they may have some type of jamming, electronic jamming, or ECM, electronic countermeasures going on, which may make some civilian comm systems inoperable.
Well, I walked right by a television satellite truck, which I think might have been the problem. I actually don't know if we're still live. Ole, are you able to check YouTube? Oh, here's a FEMA truck. What do you think of that? What does this say? Dearest U.S. Comfort, New York, thanks, sir. We are live. Great. All right. So there's a lot of activity over here by the ship, and we can see it there through the fence. Can you guys see it? Ole, can you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like right there. We got FEMA all around. We got a lot of people around here. Everybody's interested to see it. A lot of news people. Huh, now some people are actually inside there. Let's see if we can get inside. I've never seen a boat like that. How do we get inside here? Looks like over here. So, Cody, have you ever been inside a Navy hospital ship?
No, sir, I have not.
There's only a few, right, in the Navy fleet? How are people getting inside there?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I'm down here at Pier 90 now.
Looks like the door is just open and you can walk in. Oh, these guys are from FEMA. Do you know why they're bringing all this extra equipment when the doctors at Elmhurst Hospital are saying there's not enough ventilators, but the governor says there's plenty? Doesn't it make sense to distribute the resources that we have immediately before we start building triage hospitals and bringing Navy ships?
Take a break for a second. Let's start all over.
Sure.
What's the question?
There's a hospital in Elmhurst, Queens that the
Right.
New York Times reports is an apocalyptic situation.
Okay.
Dr. Colleen Smith said there weren't enough ventilators, people were dying so quickly they're stacking them up in refrigerator trucks.
Okay.
The governor says there are ventilators. The hospital says they've never been close to running out of ventilators, but somehow it seems the governor has been so focused on building a hospital at the Javits.
So the governor's trying to do it in a lot of different ways, and we're trying to help him to meet the needs that he sees. He's got a big goal. He's taking worst case scenario and he's trying to get ready for that. What's going on in Elmhurst is a thing with the city and HHS. They're trying to work that out. We're trying to get ventilators where we need them. This is a separate place that's going to be good for places like Elmhurst to send patients because of the over capacity that they have. And everybody's trying to come up with a plan here to make all this work.
Right, but if the hospitals aren't over capacity, is it a misallocation of resources to be doing things at the Javits Center and bringing
People
the
are
ship
looking
here?
at this from a holistic perspective. I don't know specifically the question that you have, which hospital is at capacity, which is over capacity. I don't have all that information right in front of me.
Shouldn't that be easy to determine?
Yes, people are determining all those things right now.
What is the Comfort's primary role going to be here?
To take overflow from all the hospitals here in the city so that hospitals can concentrate on COVID patients.
And when will that begin?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, patients will be coming here.
Yeah. We hope. There's people that are putting all that together now in some kind of...
And what is your name, sir?
My name is Von Essen from FEMA.
Thank you very much.
What outlet are you with?
It's called Crowdsource the Truth.
Crowdsource the
Crowdsource the Truth.
Crowdsource the truth. Thanks.
Thanks. That was nice of FEMA to talk to me. What'd you guys think of that? We got nice.
Well, it seems like to me that they're getting ready for a potential bloom in cases. And if the civilian hospitals in New York get overrun and they can't handle the number of patients, then they're going to bring them out to that ship. It's like an overflow valve, basically. And
press
because
allowed
they
in?
don't know exactly
Well, what are those guys
what's
doing?
really happening. You got to
What
remember
are all
the
those people
population
doing walking around?
density in New York is high.
Sorry, Cody. Say that again?
It looks to me like they're just preparing that hospital ship in the case of an overflow problem. And if the New York hospitals, the civilian hospitals, get overwhelmed, that they have that as a backup. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Let me talk to these NYPD officers. Why do they have the counterterrorism team?
I have no idea, sir. They just deployed us here. There's quite a few people not practicing social distancing, but I don't have no idea why. I don't know.
Has there been less regular NYPD out on
Can't
patrol?
do any kind of.
Got it. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
How come they didn't give you guys masks and stuff?
Well, we have masks, but I'm maintaining social distance, so I'm not worried.
Are you going to start ticketing people who violate that? The mayor said last night that people who stand closer than 6 people are going to get tickets.
I have no comments.
Got it. 6 feet, not 6 people. So, all right, there we go. NYPD, understandably not able to talk. I don't know why all these people are allowed inside there, but I'm not. They're just kind of roaming around. Ole, what's your impression of this?
Well, don't forget to thank everybody, Jason. You know, whoever you talk to this night, thanks for all you're doing. And maybe they'll get
what if they're lying
a little
to me?
more information. But
what if they're lying to me and intimidating me like the other day? Still do it? Ole, we still got
you
you?
feel like you're getting lied to out there?
I am.
Well, I mean, if you saw the other day when I was talking to the counterterrorism police who were over by the Javits, yeah, I feel like they were lying to me. Now here we see some police who are wearing the masks. So again, I'm caused to wonder, is there a standard procedure that the city has put in place, or is this just, you know, disinformation, misinformation, and confusion everywhere? That FEMA guy didn't seem to have good information on if there were or were not hospitals that are overrun in New York. He said they're still figuring that out.
Maybe they have a lack of equipment too. Maybe some of the cops don't have masks to wear.
Hasn't this been going on long enough that those shortfalls should have been taken care of? Has there been a reduction in NYPD who are out on the streets? I haven't seen nearly as many officers as I usually do. You're with Community Affairs. Are you a regular officer, or is this not normally? Community Affairs. How does that differ from standard NYPD?
Community Affairs basically do community affairs work. We're from Community Affairs Bureau.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
I don't really know what he was saying. It's hard to hear people. Well, it doesn't seem like I can get in there. Maybe, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I can only see a camera showing the pavement, so I can't really see what you're talking about.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, something happened before that.
Do they have any kind of security set up around the ship? And do they have, you know, like the Princess Diana cruise ship, they had like a long tarp kind of thing, a tent thing, where they were supposedly bringing patients in and out. Do they have anything like that set up yet? If they're going to start getting patients tomorrow, they ought to have some security around there.
Well, let's assume they're still setting that up. I don't see anything like that. I just see the ship there.
Okay.
I don't know that we're going to really get to see much more than it sitting there. I think that was pretty good that we got some information.
So you've seen FEMA, and you've seen Army guys, or National Guard, and then New York City Police, and that's about it.
Well, not just New York City Police. We're seeing NYPD counterterrorism, which is a special unit, and it seems the standard patrol cops don't have any idea as to why the counterterrorism unit is here. So again, it seems like a lack of cooperation, a lack of cross-department communication. Here's a police sergeant. Let's ask him. Excuse me, Sergeant. Has there been a reduction in NYPD patrols during the past 2 weeks? It seems like there's a lot less cops around.
I'm not, you know what, I'm not sure. I can't really answer that for you.
Is it possible that that's occurred?
I'm not sure.
Do you know why the counterterrorism division is here?
The counterterrorism is around in the city all the time, so they could be anywhere.
The other day, like about a week or 10 days ago, I encountered 8 strategic response group officers standing on a vacant street in front of a construction site at a time when there were virtually no cops around. And just the day prior, I had been attacked by a pretty crazy guy in Penn Station. Why were there so many cops there and none in Penn Station?
I can't answer that for you, sir.
Okay.
I have no idea.
All right. Thanks. Stay safe. I don't know, Cody. So far, the NYPD has never done anything but fail to protect or serve or be courteous and respectful. So I don't know.
Well, it seems like all the things I've been hearing on this end, despite the static, is that most people are just kind of giving you the runaround. Like, I don't know, I can't answer that, we don't have the information. It just seems like any time the press or anybody shows up, they just give you the runaround. That's what it seems like. What about you, Ole? What do you feel?
Yeah, but when I see them, it feels like they don't know either. It's
Yep.
I don't get a feeling that they're trying to hide something. I just feel that they're not informed. They have no idea either.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
The other day, it felt like there were some people who perhaps knew things that they weren't saying, and that's not really the case anymore. It just seems like mass confusion here. Yeah, so there's a lot of press people who aren't being allowed in anymore.
But Jason, what I'm being told from several different sources over and over again is that people on a street level, like in the police and the ambulances and so on, the lower ones are very concerned, but their bosses are totally calm and are often in secret meetings, and they come out smiling, and it's just like they know something that people down on the street level.
Did you guys see this video where Mike Pompeo says we're in the middle of a live exercise, and Dr. Bricks sort of bristles when he says that, and then Trump says you should have told us? That was weird.
And yet again, nowadays with video live editing and stuff, you don't know what is a real video. It's very hard to know these things.
Yeah. Well, so this is Pier 90, and the USS Comfort, the naval hospital ship, is here. FEMA doesn't seem to be too on top of whether or not it's needed or whether it was the most efficient way to do this, but it's here. So
but
definitely
Jason,
throwing a lot of, yeah.
Don't you think that there should be panic in the streets? That you should hear ambulance sounds, like sirens all the time if there's this incredible pandemic going on? That you should see ambulance driving up and down the streets delivering victims, and here we see nothing.
Yeah. Well, the number one thing that I'm feeling, Ole, sorry, Cody, the number one thing I'm feeling is that if there was an emergency, the first most logical thing to do is through the hospitals to determine which are full and which are not, and start to distribute patients. I mean, we're talking about small distances. An ambulance driver in Elmhurst on Friday told me that it would take 13 minutes to drive from Elmhurst Hospital Center to New York Presbyterian in downtown Manhattan. And surely there are several other hospitals in Queens and elsewhere on Long Island that are equidistant or possibly closer. And I just don't understand why the first thing they would not do is just have people working the phones to figure out who's the least sick person in Elmhurst and where's the closest hospital we can move them to, and start to alleviate the situation there until hospitals all around the city are full. Every day I'm seeing more and more ambulances just sitting around. Makes no sense.
It smells like a goose and sounds like a goose.
Well, here in Colorado, like I said, there was double security at Peterson Field Air Force Base and double security with perimeter setups outside the main gates at Fort Carson, and then west of Colorado Springs here. Saturday, I drove out on the roads. They were very empty, but I saw several police officers, state highway patrolmen, and county sheriffs all along, sitting along major
Cody, you still there? Cody, you still with us?
Yes.
Sorry, you saw them sitting
Cody's
along the
here.
highway, you said? Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah, I saw 5 different ones: state police, county, and city, and they were just sitting at good locations to watch major intersections, and none of them had a mask on. And I saw that Saturday. That was 2 days ago. But the traffic's very low.
Yeah. Well, people who are looking at the West Side Highway.
To get stopped or pulled over and ask why I was out, because the governor here ordered everyone to stay in, just like with Ole. We can only go out for essential services.
Wow. And you know, they've given guidelines here, which is not the same as an order, but certainly the mayor ordering last night that the police can summons people for standing closer than 6 feet is a movement in a direction that maybe isn't so good. For people who haven't been over here, we could see the Intrepid, and there's a submarine. I'm not sure what the name of that submarine is, but this is a cool museum. I don't think people can go there right now. See, now I see an NYPD officer who is wearing a medical mask. It's interesting to me that there's just not a universal set of guidelines that the police are following. It's pretty strange. I guess they don't want people getting too near that.
There may be a shortage of masks.
Right, that's what we've been hearing
some
for
officers
sure.
that don't have a lot of contact with the public. You know, maybe they're detectives or other type of computer personnel or whatever. They may not have a need for the mask, but I heard there was a breakout, Jason, inside the NYPD of the COVID virus. So what have you heard about that?
I heard it on the news, but none of the police have said anything to me about it. I mean, they obviously aren't media spokespeople, so they've been less than talkative, which is understandable. But, I mean, what I've observed is that before that report even came out, in my view, there's a lot less police around, and all the police have just basically said they don't know. I've seen what appears to be a replacement of standard NYPD officers with NYPD traffic officers, which do not have the same training as NYPD, and I don't even think they carry guns. I don't think they can arrest people. They just have radios and ticket books. Well, what I could do right now, guys, is I could head back to the Javits Center and try to talk to the public information officer for the triage hospital there.
But Jason, don't you get a very, very strong feeling here that reality and the information that we're being fed does not match at all?
Yes, I do get that impression.
There's no point where to connect the two. It's like it's totally disconnected from each other. What we see on the street, what we see from friends around the world that goes to hospitals, that goes to city centers, when I'm out driving, the people I speak to, no one knows anyone who died from corona. Nobody, and at the same time, through the media, that is where the numbers come from. That is where the fear comes from. So I think what we're looking at is what Cody was mentioning before. Something totally else is going on here. There's some kind of distraction from something much bigger, good or bad, but a distraction, a global distraction away from what's actually happening.
I agree with you, Ole, and I think that Mr. Bill Gates has something to do with it. He's been sort of all over the news, and he's talking about vaccines, and I don't know. I don't think I trust Bill Gates. He obviously, as you've said many times. What's that?
God, no.
Yeah.
And there's been, what I heard was about 1,300 CEOs and high-level people in business that have left their posts, you know, and I heard Bill Gates left the board of Microsoft. I've also heard, I don't know if it's true, that they've put these two hospital ships, one in New York and one on the West Coast, to handle prisoners, and that there may be some type of roundup going on of deep state operatives or pedophile rings or drug rings or something, and they're using this coronavirus as the cover.
But doesn't that seem a little far-fetched? Cody, doesn't that seem a bit far-fetched? If they were going to arrest people, why wouldn't William Barr just announce this person or that person is under indictment, and the FBI or the local police go to their house and arrest them?
Right, you're right. It's just a rumor. But like Ole was just saying, there's a big disconnect between what we're being told in the media and what's actually going on the ground. The question is, what fills that void? What is happening? Is it true that FEMA saying that those Comfort ship there is an overload?
Yeah, we just saw another ambulance.
Going on. We don't know.
We just saw another ambulance driving without the lights on. So, I mean, it doesn't seem to be transporting anyone or rushing to pick anyone up. I think if people go through sort of, pre-coronavirus New York City footage, you're probably going to just randomly hear ambulances and sirens and things so frequently that they basically get ignored. The most notable thing right now is the absence of the sound of sirens. Yes, very quiet.
But like when operations go down, when they're directed, when it's black ops, even people in uniform or in ambulance uniforms or firefighter uniforms, so on, in these operations are not the real authentic ones from that area. The local ones are being told to stand down and being pulled back. So here it's impossible that the normal cops and people in service are being away from this, because they would be starting to see, oh my God, it's an absolute lie. So have they
I think we're losing you a little bit there, Ole. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, Cody's here. Also coming up April 19th, in this month of April, there's been a whole lot of different false flag events happen, like the Murrah City bombing in April 19th of 95, but there's been others. And some people have suggested that this is like a power time for the Satanists or the New World Order occultists, and that this time we're coming into now, the potential for something else to happen, another major event. The Comfort could be placed there for that. What if there's another, like 9/11?
Well, that's what some people have been really worried about, is that there could be some knowledge of some terror event about to happen. Ole, what do you think? You're very good at looking at the signs and signals and predicting when these things might occur.
I'm totally confused. It's I get direct opposite information. It's like the gray zone times are over. It's either really bad or really good. It's like pitch black right straight into the New World Order hell, or amazing times ahead with a global reset where they break the back of the beast financially as well and reset the whole thing back on gold and let go of all mortgages and debts globally. And mass arrests of pedophile networks, and it's pointing totally in diametrically opposite directions. I'm very confused, but very optimistic, I must say.
But does it make sense that Donald Trump and the leaders of the countries around the world would shut down their economies and essentially freeze the world economy and leave everybody locked in their houses to do that?
Listen, Jason, if it made sense to me, I would understand what's going on, but I don't. I'm very confused.
Yeah.
So I'm the wrong person to ask.
Well, it's interesting to note that as I approach the Javits Center...
I've talked to a lot of different people, doctors, military intelligence people, ex-CIA personnel, and everyone's saying the same thing Ole is. There's so much confusion, so much disinformation, propaganda, whatever you want to call it. It's very difficult. I've never been so confused myself, ever.
Same
here. It's interesting, guys. As I approach the Javits Center here on 11th Avenue, there's this sort of impromptu blockade. Maybe this was here before. I'm not sure what this thing is doing, but they're directing traffic. So we've got all these sort of almost ready hospital facilities, but last night or yesterday morning, 60 Minutes Australia ran a story that New York is a hellish apocalypse and the Elmhurst Hospital is a disaster. There's been a pretty interesting question posed. First came to my attention on last week's episode of John Cullen's coronavirus investigation. And John brought up the concept that what if there are different strains, or what if people are getting the flu and coronavirus? As Ole said, a lot of these countries are reporting whatever kind of comorbidity, somebody dying from something else, they're saying it's coronavirus. And then we hear like Tom Hanks, he's positive for coronavirus, but then he comes home and he's totally fine. Maybe there are different strains out there and they don't know that yet, or maybe this is a combination of coronavirus with some form of flu, and people who get those sort of stronger versions are the ones that are most affected. Have you guys heard anything about that?
But there aren't even real test equipments that can determine if you got corona or not, as far as I know. I get reports that they're inaccurate, that they're even showing the wrong result to a large extent. So where these numbers come from?
Yeah, that's obviously a concern. There's some degree of margin of error, and I mean it just seems like they've made so many really extreme decisions based on inconclusive evidence. And then we've got other construction projects going on there.
Things from all over. There's different mortality rates in Iran and Italy, and there's all kinds of symptoms. We're getting all kinds of data that conflicts. The president of Brazil and the president of Mexico are poo-pooing it, saying this, oh, it's just sniffles, no problem, all the way to panic from the governor Como up there in New York. There's all this different, conflicting, chaotic information. It is absolutely an intelligence nightmare. It looks like they're deliberately trying to confuse people, where investigators such as ourselves, we're generally trying to find the truth out in whatever country we're in.
Yep. So guys, right now there is a truck pulling in to the triage hospital here at the Javits Center. It's a Lind Group truck, which appears to be some sort of medical equipment or something like that. So they're definitely delivering stuff. There is a Metrovision satellite truck here. So perhaps that's providing internet, or maybe feeding the news media out to satellites to... Yep.
Yeah, so if they're going to have the ship operational by tomorrow, that means by today they should be getting all their final supplies and getting the security corridors set up for people to come and go in and out of the ship. And, if it's going to be a Covid-19 overflow, they should have all that kind of infrastructure set up today, this afternoon, before the ship is open for business.
Yeah, I mean, what I understood the FEMA guy saying was that non-COVID patients were going to go to that boat so that the hospitals could focus on COVID. I mean, again, any of this medical stuff, somebody thinks that's the best idea. Somebody else is going to think that's not the best idea. Put your COVID overflow on the boat and leave the regular hospitals for people with heart attacks and brain surgery and cancer. And what's happening to all those people?
Yeah, and they may be setting up part of the ship as a quarantine center, and then another part of the ship as a medical center with ventilators and so forth. It depends on how they're going to organize it. What they're doing is adapting a military ship, which is generally set up to receive casualties from an onshore battle, generally gunshot wounds, explosions, and so forth, and they're converting that over into a quarantine and or ventilator type thing for a virus. They're taking a military ship that's designed for one thing and changing it over to a civilian application in a pandemic.
Right. Repurposing it for something else. So I don't know if people can see this through the glare on the window, but there is a lot more activity in the Javits Center today than I've seen before. They've got registration desks set up that seem to have Army personnel behind them. The doors are being guarded by the NYPD counterterrorism. So I guess they're worried about terrorism against the hospital It does say nobody's allowed in. Okay, here's a little hole in the door that's there's a lot of people in there who look like civilians. Let's see what we can see.
Are they all wearing masks, Jason? Do
No.
they have masks on?
They do not appear to.
No mask.
But then again, there might be no patients in there. I mean, I thought this is a thing that doesn't display symptoms and that everybody should be wearing masks. But let's see what that says. It says care facility. Can't quite read that. Multi-agency something. Maybe people can read that, but
Jason, do you know what I feel?
Personnel entering. What's that, Ole?
My feeling is that when you look at what's going on here in the world and what has been going on from 2019 and up to now, it's been like this empire, this dark empire, has been starting to crack down big time. You know, so much has been exposed, so many of their methods have been exposed, and more people are aware. So when you look at how this operation is going on, I mean, Agenda 21, I think it's 153 countries that signed that one. And Agenda 2030, it's 193 countries. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I've muted the microphone because I think my microphone was stepping on your audio. So tell everybody what Agenda 2030 is, Ole. I think there's a lot of people listening who might not know about that.
Agenda 21 is sort of indirectly the New World Order agenda on how to make a global fascist state, a one world where it is where we're going to be totally controlled. I mean, it's the whole one world, new world nightmare in an agenda. It was, I think it was Maurice Strong and the former Prime Minister of Norway, Gro Harlem Brundtland, that were the architects of this. And why 150 more than 100 countries have signed this absolute madness stuff, I don't know. But when you start seeing the different presidents of the world that are standing up in front of cameras and talking about these things that are going on right now, you will see in the background, it very often says Agenda 2030 behind them.
Wow.
On the walls behind them, they have the logo and so on. So I would suggest that it is possible that we are seeing here that the dark empire of the world, the evil empire that has kept us in this slavery grip, is falling apart, and now these are the desperate attempts of these hidden networks trying to fool us into believing that they're in power, that something really bad is going to go down here, so that we will accept being, for our protection, being controlled and confined more or less into this thing. But the thing is that it's so obvious for most people once you start looking at it, that is the empire's new clothes. There's nothing going on. There is no threat against us that would justify all of these measurements here and measures. So,
but Ole, I think a lot of people find it hard to believe that all these doctors who are going on the internet and appearing on the news, how could they be lying? Why would a doctor lie?
No, but you do not need that many. And this is where the Freemasonic networks come in, the brotherhoods, where key people are being brought back over and over again in these situations. Doctors, lawyers, judges, through these Freemasonic networks that are also often involved in these pedophile networks we're talking about. Many of these individuals are part of more than one of these networks. And so they're being controlled and forced maybe to step forward.
There's a sign here that says no filming. So, hey, do you guys know where the public information officer for the Army is? You guys are...
You gotta check with security in there, boss.
You guys work at the Javits Center?
Yeah.
And what's going on in there? You're setting up the hospital?
Yeah, let's check with them.
What's ETF? Cody, do you know what ETF stands for?
EPS, Department of Public Safety.
ETF.
I can't hear you.
What does ETF stand for?
E.
I'm not, no media, thank you.
Is there a public information officer in there?
Yeah, you can go right in.
Okay,
Need
thanks.
protection. Thank you.
I need protection, did you say? Can't really hear what that guy's saying. Let's see. How do we get in here? It's not a hospital. Is there a public information officer I can speak to?
Not that I know that's open right now.
No? Oh. No public information officer. So that was bad information. What does ETF stand for? Emergency Task Force. That's what it says on the back of his shirt. So he didn't want to tell me that. Well, it seems like there is no public information officer, according to the guy at the desk.
So Jason,
I just keep asking for people whenever you see them, you know, and see one person may give you one information saying no, and another one say yes, and that's back to what Ole was talking about. It's
That's what just
confusing
happened.
and chaotic.
Yeah. Hey, let's go back down that street where I saw the strategic response force from the cops and see if they're still there.
and also in the meantime, maybe we can tell the viewers that we do this on a weekly basis, this show together.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Ole is talking about Light on Conspiracies with Ole Dammegard, which is our sponsor-exclusive show. People who sponsor Ole on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, or people who sponsor Crowdsource the Truth on patreon.com/crowdsource the truth, or subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth. Can watch the show every Monday. Cody is joining us almost every week, and I'm working real hard on trying to get Cody to start a Patreon page. People can purchase Cody's book, Choosing the Light, in which he describes the dark secrets of the Oklahoma City bombing. People can purchase that in the bookstore on lightonconspiracies.com. That's Ole's website, and I hope the people watching now will visit lightonconspiracies.com and purchase the books that Ole has written, the books that Cody has written, and people can learn a lot more about the type of stuff that we're talking about that is now playing out on the streets in front of our very eyes. So you guys are union guys who are working on whatever's going on in the Javits Center, right?
If I told you, if you want answers, go ask the security in there. You can't talk to me, people. Sorry about that. I told you twice already.
I can't really understand what you're saying, and when I went inside there, they wouldn't tell me anything.
What are you asking?
Well, just curious what's going on inside there. What?
Go ask security.
You guys work for the Javits Center, or you?
Come on, guys.
All right. So you work for the Carpenters Union. You guys are carpenters. Or either that or you're wearing somebody else's t-shirt. So the Carpenters Union is in there. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, is that we've got Governor Cuomo sending work and money, oh wait a minute, it was this way, down to the unions and over here to the Javits Center. My question is, why are they so focused on spending money on things without first finding out if they're needed and spending money intelligently? You know, they got this strategic response force, but I would call this just about the least strategic response I could imagine.
Well, we also heard that during the stimulus package that was just passed in Congress, each of our congressmen and women and the senators all got a $25,000 a year raise.
That's outrageous.
Well, it happened. And it also, Senator Burr and Senator Dianne Feinstein all attended the Senate intelligence briefings, which were classified from the public. And then shortly thereafter, they sold most of their stocks in motels and other things that would be affected by coronavirus arrival here in the United States. So not only did they vote themselves a raise, they also used insider trading information. And now you're on the street and everything's all confused, money being spent. It looks like a hodgepodge of contradictory and chaotic.
Yeah.
But
and listen, I'm sure the union... Sorry,
Don't
go
you get
Ole.
the feeling of grab and steal what you can and then run for it?
Well, that's what the whole thing feels like. They just passed the $2 trillion right away. Why didn't they immediately assign a hospital task force to create a software program to determine where available beds were around the city and just sort of like figure out what the best way to allocate existing resources were, concurrent with building all this stuff that we might need down the road if all these scientists' projections are correct. Now, this is the spot where I saw the Strategic Response Force the other day. They do not seem to be here. I mean, this is essentially a construction site. This is one of the most remote parts of town. I'm on Hudson Boulevard East, which I never even heard of before last week, and 35th Street. And there is a subway stop here, but the cops didn't seem to be too interested in that. They were the counterterrorism, you know, the guy said it was some counterterrorism response or something, but now there's no cops here. And the counterterrorism guys are all over the dock and the Javits Center, where the union is getting paid and the medical equipment companies are getting paid, and we're all sitting at home, not allowed to go to work, waiting in line to buy toilet paper. I don't know what the hell is going on, guys.
Jason,
Holy crap. Can you see this?
You were there
Can you see this?
during 9/11.
Do you guys see this?
Can you?
What does this feel like now, what you're seeing right now on the street? How does that compare to the feeling of the next few days after 9/11 hit? I mean, what are you feeling?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was on the street right after the planes hit, and about maybe 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after watching TV all day, I started walking down to the World Trade Center because, I don't know, I had some stupid idea that I was gonna like help rescue people or something. But obviously when I got down there, they were like, hey, are you a doctor? Are you an EMT? And the answer is no, so they just told me to go away because I was in danger of being injured. And just the feeling around town is that everybody was stunned, like in shock, because, I mean, it was just, talk about shock and awe. Nobody had ever imagined, or certainly not witnessed, but you couldn't even have thought something like that would occur. So everybody was kind of shell-shocked, and then the aftermath, you know, people were just unusually sympathetic towards one another. I think people felt happy to be alive. Those who didn't lose family members, and you know, there was just an incredible outpouring of brotherhood, I guess you would call it, or I don't know what the right word is. It's escaping me right now, but everybody was being really nice to each other, and obviously businesses were open. I mean, when I was walking around during the day on 9/11, there were people out to lunch, sitting in outdoor cafes, which I couldn't believe. I'm gonna walk by a construction site, so I'll mute my mic. What do you guys think about what we've been seeing? Ole, what was that giant moth butterfly thing?
I don't know. Maybe a monarch butterfly. I don't know. Bizarre looking thing, I thought.
Any idea? Like, you know, monarch butterfly. So what would that be doing there?
Well, you know, the first thing I think about with the monarch butterfly, of course, because of my bias, my normalcy bias of CIA ops, is the monarch mind control program. You know, if that's the first thing I thought of when I heard that, but I can't see the picture, so I don't know.
No, but that was what I thought of as well. But I don't know either. I mean, it was a very unusual, very ugly butterfly or whatever it was.
Right. Well, guys, I think we have a lot of new viewers. Sorry, hang on one second, Cody. Very loud. Sorry. Hang on, we got somebody here who wants to talk to us.
Who are you taking a shot at?
Taking a picture of you.
Why? All right, can you text it to me?
No, sorry, I can't. Crowdsource the Truth on YouTube. Tune in to Crowdsource the Truth on YouTube. So, yes, here's some cops down here, but I don't think the cops are going to talk to me. So what I was saying, Cody, sorry about all the noise by that construction site. I think we have a lot of viewers who are tuning in now because they're stuck at home, they're confused, they're frustrated, they don't understand what's going on. But so many people who are listening to us right now don't know about Agenda 2030, and they don't know about Monarch, Operation Monarch, and all that. Why don't we give everybody a little overview of what MK Ultra and Project Monarch and all that stuff is?
Well, yeah, it's just, you can Google this stuff up. A lot of it has been declassified now. And it's just basic deal is the Monarch mind control program. That was a part of the MK Ultra programming. They had about 150 or 160 different types of sub-programs. They were looking into things, opening the Pandora's box of mind control. And it started from Operation Paperclip back in 1947 when the CIA was first formed after war was over. So you can Google it up. It's just
Sorry, that's just some guys talking on the street. Keep going.
Oh, yeah, but Monarch was a type of mind control technique where it was based on ritual sexual trauma, where a person, usually a young child between the ages of 5 and 7, was traumatized, and their mind was split with the cognitive dissonance threshold. You know, that's a point where there's so much trauma in a person's life that the mind blanks out. It's a natural protective mechanism. And then you go to an ultra personality. They had triggers and handlers, and they set these people up, and they deliberately split their minds. And then the idea of the monarch butterfly coming out of a caterpillar, that's what CI used to, it was a euphemism for taking a young child and splitting them off, and they would then bloom into another personality. That's hence the monarch transformation.
Yeah.
Kathy O'Brien's book, written with Mark Phillips, the co-author, called Transformation of America, and it's spelled Trance, like trance. And that's a real good book about, because she was a monarch mind control.
She was a subject?
Programmed by a guy named Mark Phillips. And so that's a good book to get into that. But you can look at the monarch mind control technique. It's all been declassified, and it went through the 50s and the late 60s. And then it was abandoned in favor of more advanced different types of mind control. So that's a basic overview of the monarch thing. And so the symbol of the monarch butterfly, just like Ole says, every time you see that, it's like anyone who knows about it, it's like, is that a symbol for something going on inside that building, or is it a trigger? He has pointed out that's happened in all these terrorist events over and over. Is that some kind of trigger or something? It may be.
I think we lost you there, Cody.
Static here. It's hard to hear.
Yeah. I lost Ole. I'm trying to get Ole back, and there's a lot of noise. Sorry. It's always difficult when we're moving around like this. I hope we can get Ole
Sounds
back.
like a white noise generator to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of cars and stuff. Sorry. I'm trying to get Ole back on the line. Let's see what these guys say.
It sounds just to me like a white noise generator. I've got one of them, and it's the way you confuse communications by introducing a static. It's a wide frequency spectrum of static called white noise. That's what it sounded like to me.
Stand by one quick second. Hey guys, are you working with the hospital ship?
Yes.
This patch on your arm, it looks like a signal intel sign. What is that?
That's the 86 cache.
What does that mean?
It's the 531st actually, hospital battalion.
So you guys expect patients to start arriving over there today, tomorrow?
Today we've had.
Today? And what do you think that the doctor in Elmhurst said there's not enough ventilators, but the governor and the hospital itself said that there were plenty?
Yeah. We don't really know much about that, so we don't know.
You guys don't get involved in the planning. They just tell you what to do and you do it.
Yeah, we're both nurses.
All right, well, thank you guys very much for being here. How come you're not wearing masks?
We wear masks when we're doing patient care, but just out here, we haven't been told to wear masks.
Yeah, we haven't been directed to yet.
Yes, sir. Unless we're displaying symptoms.
Got it. And did they tell you that the mayor said that we could all get a ticket for standing closer than 6 feet?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, guys, good luck. Be well. Thanks for your service. Some people are worried that that ship might be used for storing prisoners. Any indication that that's going to happen? Seems ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's no prison facility on the ship. Not even a brig?
We have no idea. We're Army, sir. We don't really know.
That's Navy, sir. All right.
Got it. Thanks. Now, wait a minute. I don't know. I was confused by that. Cody, you still with me?
Yeah, and I never believed, that stuff about those hospital ships being moved over there
No,
to
I
house
understand.
prisoners and all that. I thought that was just one of those internet rumors and conspiracy theory things. I think those ships are there generally for overflow because Como and the federal government don't know how far this infection is going to spread and how it'll balloon up or mushroom up exponentially. So if it does get way out of control, that's why the hospital ship's there. But the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, took it seriously enough to put all patients from New York. He just put the order in this morning. Anyone coming from New York on plane, boat, air, all has to have a mandatory 14-day quarantine.
Right. We've got Ole back. How are you, Ole?
Yep. Good.
So, Ole, was there anything you wanted to say about MK Ultra?
No, I just want to say we're the victims. I mean, really, it's like, I don't know from how many countries we need to get confirmation that they're empty hospitals. They're empty. I mean, here in Spain, they say they have a hockey rink, to freeze all the bodies. There's a big freezer truck there. There's a lot of numbers, but if you go out in the streets, it's empty. There's nothing. There's no panic. Just like in New York, just like in Stockholm, in Uppsala, north of Stockholm, and Gothenburg, you have big military tents preparing, and there's no victims. There are numbers, but nobody.
Sorry, Ole. You reminded me of something important. So there was another piece of news that came out of Elmhurst Hospital yesterday. We've been hearing from the New York Times that a semi-truck, an 18-wheeler, was brought in, a refrigerator truck, to store the massive number of dead bodies because people were dying, 1 per hour was what we heard. So that would sound like 24 per day. I don't know that 24 bodies would require a 18-wheeler truck, but there have been some really weird videos showing up on Twitter and stuff that show these alleged hospital workers just, video recording bodies that they're dead people that they're supposed to be loading into the truck. This seems like an incredibly insensitive violation of patients' rights and the family's rights. And I mean, if someone lost a family member, I don't think they want some jackass from Queens putting a video of them on Twitter.
No, once again, it's either totally bizarre videos, just like you say, where they're shoving bodies in, like stacking them on top of each other, or videos of absolute zero, nothing.
Absolutely.
There's a big disconnect between what's going on the ground and then the mass media, and there's something very big going on around this. But I do not know what it is. I can feel it more than anything, and I'm watching contradictory things like from Italy. Here in the United States, we see over and over again on CBS and NBC News, that's the mainstream media propaganda, we see the same video clips over and over and over about the supposed COVID patients in Bergamo. And so it's the same clips they play, and then they change the numbers every day. And that, to me, is strange.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen that they're showing photos from ERs where one day they say it's Italy, the next day they say it's New York. This is the reason why I'm going around and doing this. People see where I start, and they see where I go, and they see where I end, and they see what I ask people, and they see what they say. Now, I don't know if you guys are going to...
But also,
yeah.
Jason,
Yep.
the lack of sirens. I mean, the
Yes.
lack of sirens.
Right. Where are the ambulances? You know?
I've never heard it so quiet in New York.
Right. I mean, obviously, when we're standing next to the West Side Highway, it's very loud. When we're standing next to construction sites, it's very loud. But Ole, this is Penn Station and Madison Square Garden. And I mean, right over behind me here, this is the James Farley Post Office. This is the main New York City Post Office. There's normally so many people over here. And I mean, it's not a beautiful day, but it's not terrible. It's warm enough. There would ordinarily be people sitting on these stairs right here, eating their lunch. It's about lunchtime right now. These stairs would be filled up, not with pigeons, but people. And there's nobody, obviously. Everybody's at home under lockdown. Totally bizarre. Wow. I don't know.
Yeah, we got one confirmation here from a very, very trusted, well-known person, you know, we've known a long time, one of the head of the departments at the hospital, and they said they did have one COVID-19 patient in there, and there were 3 that were showing symptoms, and we have not heard back on the test results. So, and they said they were scared. And these are seasoned medical professionals, you know, so that's the closest thing I've got to even actually eyewitnessing a COVID patient around here. But the governor has us on a lockdown just like Ole over there.
Don't you think that a medical
Essential
professional...
travel only.
Don't you think a medical professional is likely to become scared just by watching the news? And, I mean, I want to be clear. I don't think that there is no COVID-19. I do believe that coronavirus is real and that people are getting sick with it, but we've got so much contradictory information, like just Tom Hanks and his wife alone. They're positive for coronavirus. A week or 2 later, we hear that they're at home and they're fine. Then we hear that people in Elmhurst, Queens have coronavirus, and it's the biggest disaster in human history. We got to shut down the economy. So in my mind, there's a lot of unanswered questions there. And, you know, before we take the most extreme reaction, I think we need more information. We need to understand what's happening. I mean, what's happening in New York is the perfect example. There is capacity at the hospitals. Not every hospital is overloaded. And so it seems to me, if last Thursday, which is 4 days ago, if you had a hospital that was overloaded and people are dying there, and we got an EMT who says it would take 13 minutes to drive to what is not even the closest hospital, why do we wait 4 or 5 days to build new hospitals rather than scrambling to move people around and maximize existing resources? That's a huge question to me.
Do you know?
Yeah, and it may be based on predictions of infectious rates and stuff. The government may have information that we citizens are not privy to, but they've obviously moved that hospital ship there for a reason. The question is, you know, what's really going on?
Yep. Do you know, on David Icke's website today there's a documentary maker or filmmaker that has been walking around exactly like you, but in German hospitals and seen empty. And he does, I think it's called, or if it's RT, that are doing, I think, interviews with 3 different doctors that all 3 of them say, we haven't seen this virus. We don't even know if it exists.
Wow. Hey, did you guys know that one of the malicious social engineers who is among those who are suing me with fake allegations and fake lawsuits and has been laughed out of 2 federal jurisdictions already, started writing emails to Dr. Fauci and to the governor and various law enforcement bodies saying that I'm a public menace because I'm going around and asking these questions of people who are standing on public streets. This person is such a malicious individual, that people really need to understand what social engineering is all about. This is a guy who is wanting to help the forces that don't want people to know the facts. They want you to stay in your house. They want you to watch the news. They want you to watch the New York Times, read that, read the Washington Post. I mean, like I said, I've said this many times, until the city or the president or some law, enforcement authority tells me that it's illegal to go out on the street, I'm going to exercise my rights, and I'm going to help everybody see and understand what's going on out here. These social engineers, people who know the show, know who I'm talking about. These guys are trouble.
But what if all the Jade Helm 15 information that was gathered during that operation is now being used in a PSYOP or a mass media type event, to data mine the populations further? But there's been a lot of money changing hands, all-time record bills, record losses, Dow Jones, up and down. There's so much going on. I've never been so confused in my whole life about anything.
Yeah, and we see a lot of the white cap NYPD traffic officers strolling around, but I mean, it doesn't seem like there's too much traffic. I guess they're ticketing cars that are parked illegally, but even that seems like somewhat of a waste of time.
Are they wearing masks? Are they wearing face masks?
Nope.
See, if they were worried about coronavirus, wouldn't they be wearing a face mask?
I would think that any city employee, whether it be a postal worker or a cop or a traffic cop or whatever, would be wearing a face mask. Did the city tell you to wear a face mask while you were out?
Five different police officers Saturday, state, county, and city, and not a single one of them had a face mask on around here.
Right. Well, so far, all these officers are saying is that they can't talk to me, which I appreciate. Again, they're not press liaisons, and they're not trained in communicating the message to the public, but there doesn't seem to be a message for the public. There doesn't seem to be a plan for...
So none of the people on the street can talk, and yet on the national news, all we get is coronavirus, 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 coronavirus.
Yes, and when one of the Army guys who was on the street did what seemed like the right thing to do, said, I can't speak to you, there's a public information officer, speak to him or her, and then I went inside and they said there isn't one. So that's not very organized. I mean, don't we have a right to know what's going on? This is supposed to be a country for the people, by the people, and of the people, not for us to sit inside while Congress gives themselves raise and steals $2 trillion.
It's, I just have a feeling that there's something deeper and bigger going on here, and I can't substantiate it, I can't prove it, and I have no data to support it. But I stayed alive in Black Ops for a long time because sometimes you just get a weird feeling, and you have to follow those, and that's what I've got right now. There's something else going on, but I don't know what it is.
Cody, a lot of people have told me to get out of New York City, but first of all, this is my home, and leaving the resources and safety of my apartment doesn't seem like a smart thing to do. And also, given all these, places that don't want to let people from New York or New York City in, and also given the fact that I don't own a car and don't know what's going to happen, this is a very dynamic situation. I could leave, and an hour from now they could announce you're not allowed back in, and then I could be stuck somewhere with no food, no ATM maybe, no place to sleep. It doesn't seem like a good idea, does it?
No, we've got a friend down in Antarctica right now that was down there on a geological expedition for the oil companies, and she's trying to get back to the States, but they're having a lot of trouble with connecting flights and various travel restrictions. We did talk to one guy from New York City that was here in Colorado a week ago, and he was wearing an N95 face mask, and he was obviously, scared about the coronavirus, but he was really tired of all the what he called the BS up there in New York, and he came down here, I guess, to get away from it. But there is so much conflicting information. Very difficult to even know what's going on.
Yeah, I think we're going to wrap up the show pretty soon, Cody. It looks like Ole might have dropped off the call again. I'm just approaching the FDNY ambulance parking area there, just to see if those ambulances are still there.
See if you can ask any of the...
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask the EMTs how's it's been going.
Yeah, see if you can ask any of the drivers or anything if they've seen an increased caseload. See if they're wearing... If I was an ambulance driver in a COVID-19 outbreak, I would definitely be wearing a mask.
Right. They haven't been the past several days that I've been over there, and they've been friendly but vague about the information regarding COVID-19 because they don't really know. I mean, most of them have told me that the patients tell them that they have COVID-19, and I don't really think a patient would know if we've got, doubts about the results from a scientific test. I think anybody who has a sore throat or a runny nose or a fever might call the ambulance and say, I have COVID-19, but we don't really know. So we'll see who's over there.
This malicious social... They need a bunch of crisis actors to go around and fake like they did, like Tom Hanks. I mean, I don't know. One time they say they're sick, and then they're back home alive, and then they show us on the news how everyone's dying and 1,000 a day in Spain and Italy. And it's such a conflicting mess.
Exactly. Now, I mean, you just brought up a good example, Cody. So if Tom Hanks is diagnosed in Australia with coronavirus, first of all, how did he get to a point where he was well enough? I guess he travels on a private jet. But, I mean, what about the pilot? I mean, how did he come back to the United States? Isn't he a medical marvel? Shouldn't we be studying how Tom Hanks and his wife didn't die from this thing?
Yeah. There's many unanswered questions. It's just a big mess. And we're going to continue to try to get accurate information, and then we'll share whatever we learn here in Colorado. And I don't know why Ole's phone was cut off. I don't know if the deep state did it or it was just a...
Oh, my battery's getting low. But here's an ambulance on a forklift or something going somewhere. So, all right, we're going to be just the last few minutes of the broadcast here because the battery is dying. But we'll head over there and we'll see. That flatbed just drove by with a dead ambulance on it. So that's the first sign we've seen of anybody fixing any ambulances. Has there been any more information from Tom Hanks? Or, I mean, that's just nonsense he's putting out on Twitter. We don't know if that's official or what.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a media figure and everybody knows him. I mean, he's made so many great movies and all, but I hope if he does have COVID-19, him and his wife certainly get well. We don't know if any of this information, how accurate it is. It's just a hodgepodge of various conflicting stories.
Yep, absolutely. Well, yeah, I don't know that we've learned anything substantially different today than we have on other days of being out. But definitely...
What we found, though, today, while what you're doing, is the vagueness from the FEMA guy to the Army guys to the NYPD to the construction workers that you talk to. It seems like there's just an overall vagueness. Nobody knows. Nobody can talk. It's like a smoke screen. It's just really confusing.
Well, let me ask you something else, Cody. So if they don't understand why Tom Hanks in 2 weeks gets well enough to come back from Australia to California, and somebody else gets so sick that Elmhurst Hospital is having 1 person per hour die and is apocalyptic, how the hell do they know how it's transmitted? How do they know how long the gestation period is? I think they don't know anything about it at all.
Right, and there's apparently 2 strains of this COVID-19, the L strain and the S strain, and they have different virulency rates. and cause different symptoms. One's milder, and then the L strain is worse and more infectious. So there could be two strains. We got different medical groups in different countries. I hope that the Comfort hospital ship is there for a different reason. I hope it doesn't blow up there in New York, but apparently, listen to the FEMA guy you talked to, they look at things from a bigger picture.
Yeah. So, I mean, Cody, there's still a lot of ambulances.
So there may be in another
here.
week or 10 days, there may be a bloom in cases, and then everybody will be glad that that Comfort ship is there.
Right.
But right now, the data is so conflicting, it's very difficult to understand.
It absolutely is. So the battery on the stabilizer just died, so we're definitely close to the end. But let's just see. We've got right here one. So now I was here about an hour and a half ago when the broadcast began, and this appears to be the same number of ambulances. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got a lot. 6, 7. There's a lot of ambulances here. So I'm not sure what that's about. There's like 7, 8 ambulances here, which is sort of the number I've seen every time I've come here. None have gone out apparently in an hour and a half. Do you work for FDNY? Looks like no. He's just hanging out having a cigarette. So Cody, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 ambulances right here. No EMTs, no drivers, no activity. I mean, let me ask you this, Cody. If you woke up from a coma after 50 years and somebody told you there's a pandemic in New York City that has shut down the U.S. economy and locked everybody inside, wouldn't you expect the FDNY ambulance station to be filled with EMTs running around, cleaning these ambulances, preparing them to get the next pandemic patient and all that? Wow, I just got a message that 75% of my data plan has been used. Wouldn't you expect more activity around these ambulance sites?
Yeah, I'd expect more activity at the Comfort ship. If they say they're going to have that ship operational today, this afternoon, they've only got, 5, 6 more hours maybe, unless they're working all night. And if they're working at night, Jason, they should have lights and generators and stuff set up. In case, the power fails or something happens, they should have triage tents outside the Comfort ship on the pier ready to accept preliminary patients, because they have to separate those patients. They can't just assume everyone's got COVID-19. They might have a flu or something else, and they can't waste the hospital beds in a pandemic with stuff like that. So they should have triage tents, security, lights. They should have all that set up there, and the ambulances should be out picking up patients, taking them, moving gear. And what we're seeing on the ground is very different from what I would expect to be happening in a pandemic.
I'm with you on that. So, Cody, I'm just about out of battery power
between
here.
The national news and what's going on the ground.
Huge disconnect, I agree. We're just about out of battery power here. I don't know that there's much more that we can do for now. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I want to remind people that on Mondays they can see Cody and Ole and me on Light on Conspiracies with Ole Dammegard on patreon.com/Light on Conspiracies.
Hello?
Patreon. Yeah, patreon.com. Have I lost you? Well, that's the end of the show, folks. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back later today.
Yeah, this